Oh,
It's in Google Plus Hangout land. I hope you all can hear me. I am Dave Karger from Fandango, and as you can tell, I'm sitting here with Justin Lin, the director of Fast and Furious 6, as well as Luke Evans, new cast member in the franchise, the villain Owen Shaw. I believe there are four of you on this hangout with us: James, Dave, Matt, and Perry. So just to get right to it, I'm going to kind of call on you guys one by one and just go through the rotation a few times so you can get your questions in. We've got 15 minutes for this. So James from joblo.com, if you can hear me, go ahead and ask your
Yes,
first
I
question.
can. Okay, Luke, I'm going to start with you. Obviously, you're kind of jumping into a very well-established franchise. Was there kind of a driving boot camp that you had to jump into?
Well, it was. I mean, it was slightly daunting, I have to say, joining the franchise, because obviously they've been together 10 years, and I was coming in as the bad guy and all of that stuff. And I remember my first day on the set was a scene right at the end of the film, wasn't it? Almost when I get caught, which takes them almost the whole film to catch me. And they catch me finally, and I have to do this scene, and we had to block it really fast so that they could get the lighting set, because it was a big ensemble, and we wanted to get it going. And I hadn't really met any of the cast, and the whole team were there, and I was dragged down, handcuffed in front of them, and we rehearsed the scene and did this whole thing. I got punched in the face by Paul Walker, eyeballed by Vin Diesel, and then snogged Gina Carano, and only met her like 10 minutes before that. So that was my introduction to the cast, but they were very nice after that, and yeah, we had a very good time.
Dave from collider.com, you're up.
Hey guys, thanks for joining us. Just wanted to ask the both of you about your experience filming in London. I know the franchise has taken us to some pretty exotic locales. What was it like filming in one of the great urban centers?
You know, for me, after Fast 5, I kind of flew around Europe, and there were a couple cities that I was thinking about, but as soon as I landed in London, it just felt right. I think tonally, this in a way is a conclusion of this chapter of the franchise, and it's a big city, it's diverse, and it has a lot of iconic kind of look and history to it. And I felt like, I remember I was in a car driving to locations, and the quality of the sun was just so different than any other location we've had, and I felt like that was just the right texture for what we're about to do, especially with this Dom and Letty and the theme of trust, and it just felt like everything was in place when I landed here. And as I found out, obviously there's a rich tradition in cinema and some of the best crew in the world. So it's a tough city, any city we pick, because they're all big cities, but here, coming in here and working with the crew and earning that kind of respect, it allowed us to be able to shoot in places that I never thought we'd get access to, like Piccadilly Circus, where we're only the third film in history to be able to shoot there.
What were the others?
Harry Potter and American Werewolf in London.
And how would you describe the difference in the light here?
I don't know. It's even on a sunny day, it's not sunny, and it really does have, it really has that texture of something hidden behind like a filter, and I love that.
Cloud.
I know.
You're trying to glamorize
I don't know what it is from,
It's called
from
cloud.
LA. I don't know what this cloud thing is, but I do think that on any given day it just have a very different look, and putting our characters in those situations, it just felt right.
How about you shooting here, Luke?
Oh well, it was wonderful too, because I'd spent a year away in New Zealand, so there was a lot of factors that made me want to do this job. And when the final one was when they said it was shot in London, I was like, this is great. I'm going to get to be at home, and we utilized London to the best I've ever seen London being used in a film. I mean, Piccadilly Circus is fantastic. I came to set that night, remember? And just because I wanted to see the shoot, and I wanted to see Piccadilly shut down, because it really is a very unusual thing to see, and it was in a movie that I was in, and I was like, I've got to see this, and so it was that was great. That was really, really fun. And the thing about London is it has very old areas and very winding roads that go right through the city centre, and then 2 minutes down the road we can be in a humongous central business district surrounded by the high-rise towers that is Canary Wharf, and you have a completely different feel, a very sort of industrial business center, which feels, completely different to anywhere else we shot. So Yeah, it's a great backdrop. I'm very proud of the fact that London now hosts Fast 6.
Matt from Hollywood.com, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Thank you so much. To both of you, there are several dialogue scenes in this film that miraculously and enjoyably keep up the momentum between the action moments. And I'm curious if, as opposed to maybe a typical drama that you've worked on in the past, if they require a different style, a different approach to make those just as energetic as a car chase.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think in design of these films, I approach it as kind of non-action movies anyway. I feel like these action sequences are always kind of last for me to design because I have to figure out thematically and in the character arcs where they are. Because if you look at these films, there's actually not a lot of real estate for non-action moments. So I treat them equally, and I think in picking the lenses and how to design the sequences, you know, I would get lost if I was just going to do action for action's sake. So, you know, the treatment of both action and non-action to me is exactly the same way. What I can say for this one, I was really excited about was that for the first time, you know, in the past we've had antagonists in this franchise, which was basically there to service maybe the plot. But I was excited because, you know, I had Luke, and I wanted to create an antagonist that really had a valid philosophy that was going to challenge Dom Toretto. And once I was able to kind of establish that, it made it much easier to design everything, and to have Luke there to you know, every time to be able to, you know, to be able to go face to face with Dom, who's now bigger than life. I was very excited for those moments.
I was terrified.
How'd you get over it?
I had a stern talking to. Justin said, "Pull yourself together, sort yourself out. You're an actor." No, I mean the scenes were great. I think the scenes that I did with Vin were brilliantly written. I felt like my character was so well rounded, and there were some very special scenes. That was probably one of my favorites. It really came over well, and it was, you know, there was basically an open space. There was two cars and two men, and there's this appreciation and respect for each other. And it was I liked the theme that was running through that scene. It was, you know, it was almost like we could have been friends. We could have been on the same team if this had been a different world, a different life. And yeah, it came over really well, and it did in the film too. I thought it had a real good, strong impact. These two men were on par for just one glimpse in the movie. They were level pegging with each other.
Perry from Screen Rant, are you there?
Yep, I'm here. Hey guys. Is there anything movie magic wise that you're particularly proud of here? Something that looks entirely different on screen than when you were doing it on set?
Yeah, you know, I joke with the visual effects supervisors and artists on this film because, you know, when they do Harry Potter and stuff like that, they get to show off their craft, you know. And when they come on this franchise, if it actually become evident it's a visual effect, then they're not doing their job.
Yeah.
So, you know, we have about 1,700, 1,800 visual effects shots in this film, and it took a long time to craft and make sure that, you know, how we were going to use that tool. And there were a lot of people. I mean, I around the world, I had to fly kind of to different cities to kind of talk and hang out with the artists and stuff, and a lot of hard work have gone into making everything kind of seamless and believable and real. So that's one of probably the proudest things about doing this franchise is utilizing certain tools so that you never notice it's being used.
Anything to add to that?
No, I absolutely feel exactly the same. I've been asked that question a few times this week about, you know, how much of it was CGI, and I think what's brilliant about Justin's approach to this film is that if it can be done for real, then do it for real. And you know, those big action sequences with the tank and all that stuff, I mean, that actually happened. I saw the film footage the day after it was done, and you can't actually believe that you were able to do it for real. But it's great. It makes a difference if it's done for real. And also, you know, the CGI, you don't notice it, and that is the best form of CGI, you know?
Let's go around the horn again and go back to James.
Justin, I've got to say, you know, starting off with a basic car flick, this has become a huge, mythology. How much did you go into that, and how far do you see it going?
Well, there was two pivotal moments for this, and that was about 8 years ago. I think when I first signed on to the franchise, I think that was my pitch, is that, I felt like everything was kind of loosely connected, and if we had the opportunity, I think it would have been great to change the sensibility of this franchise and really care for these characters and build a relationship, build a mythology, and the first obstacle was convincing Vin to come in and do the cameo for Tokyo Drift, because I heard all the rumors about whatever this and that he would never do it, but once I was able to meet with them, show him the footage, tell him what I was trying to do, and he said yes, I felt like, okay, this is, Dom is the patriarch of the family, and now that he's going to be in, that's the first step. And it allowed us to be able to show that to the audience. They embraced it. We had another opportunity. We made Fast and Furious, the fourth one. And then I went to the studio and said, well, Han now has to be in the fourth one. And everyone's confused. They think I'm crazy. They said, well, didn't he die in the third one? I said, no, that's a postmodern take. And we're building a mythology. We're going to build a relationship. And to everyone's credit, they said, okay, do it. And it's funny looking back, and they're just two small little scenes. But at the end of the day, without those two elements, I don't think we could have been able to kind of build everything. I think those discussions that we had and making that happen, when you build a mythology, you also allow characters to evolve. And then one of the things I wanted to do was acknowledge the maturity of the characters, that it has been 12 years later, it has been 8 years later, and that they're not still doing the same thing over and over again. And I feel fortunate to have a studio that, I think in a sequel scenario, a lot of times people get very conservative because there's a lot of money involved. And for them to say, okay, bring back a character that's supposed to be dead, do this, do that. I mean, that is great partnership. And to be able to do that and evolve, and I think that's why the franchise has been able to kind of jump into different genres, because, I'm not trying to artificially force it. It just, as the characters grow, the obstacles grow. And we tend to, and I think for me to do 6, a lot of the stuff you see in the film actually were talked about that night in 2005. So for me to be able to realize everything that I was pitching, it's been a dream come true. And I do think that, this is one of those franchises where it's based on character, and the characters have such a deep relationship with the audience that I can see it going on, and I can't wait for another filmmaker to come in, for me to hand off the baton, and for him or her to take it and then see what they're going to do with the franchise.
Dave?
Yeah, so the first kind of big action set piece, I think, in this film is the sort of the introduction of Shaw's character and also the flip car. Could you guys talk about the inception of the flip car, how that was to drive it, and just that whole experience?
Well, for me, it was interesting because we usually modify the cars, and I remember in Tokyo Drift, the big thing was putting a Nissan engine in a Mustang, and it took us like $250,000 to finally make it work, but it was something that I was adamant. I said, I don't care, I don't want to fake it, we have to do it for real, and we did it. And since then, Dennis McCarthy, the head of Picture Cars, he is the best in the business. He loves a challenge, and I would always throw things his way. And as we were developing Fast 6, the flip car came from Shaw, the character. I remember working on the character, and people came to me and said, well, what car do you think he would drive? And I said, well, I don't think he would modify any cars. I think he would actually build the car for its function. Yeah. And so I went to Dennis, and he said, well, what do you want me to build? And I said, I want you to build this car that's going to flip other cars. and he went away thinking hard, and he came back actually with the design, with the Mercedes SUV, and he had all these ramps built. And I said, no, it's nice try, but the aesthetics aren't right. We're going to go to Europe, and I think you need to be more efficient. Let's use the F1 model as our inspiration. And I remember his eyes lit up. I went to lunch. I came back, and he faxed me the blueprints for what is now the flip car. And so, it came from the character. It was based on the character's philosophy, and yeah, I think we're all very proud of it, because when we tested it for the first time, it actually flipped the car. That all the credit goes to Dennis for really listening and participating and building it and making it. I think it's a big part of Shaw and Shaw's introduction.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I think he's very proud of it. He likes driving it. He's very smug when he gets in it just before he races out of that underground settlement that he lives in, or he's holed up in. It's the sound of the engine when it when we opened it up in this concrete bunker, you know, there was everything. The concrete doesn't absorb sound, and it was thunderous. The engine was it's incredible sound. So it did exactly what it said on the tin, didn't it? That was so great. That's what makes it different. There was no faking it. It was real. That machine, that car did exactly what it was made to do.
Matt?
One of my favorite things about Fast Five is that it kind of wears its genre influences on its sleeve. And Justin, I'm curious about when you were developing Fast Six, if your love of movies and your love of genre kind of shaped and pushed Fast Six in a particular direction. And then Luke, for you, if the same kind of thinking helped you craft a villain in this heightened realism of the Fast and Furious franchise.
Yeah, you know, for me, I love being part of this franchise because I've done 4 movies and they've never been the same. And you know, a lot of people ask me, well, what action movie did you see to, you know, and I didn't particularly look at other films as inspiration because I really want to kind of build it stylistically from the characters. And I have to say the biggest influence for me for Fast 6 is actually like Nashville or Shortcuts. You know, I love Altman movies and I love ensemble movies. And so this is one case where I have 13 characters that I want to care for and I want to develop. And that's probably more for me as an influence than any other action movie.
Perry, take us home. Oh no! Do you want to ask something?
He asked me a question as well, but
oh, I'm sorry. You know, my audio is horrible.
That's all right. Don't worry about it. It's fine.
Go for it.
I guess I had never really played an antagonist such as Shaw on such a big scale, and so I had coming from playing a good guy for so long, I felt I had so many things I wanted to bring into the role. Even before I actually read the script, I was like, I want to play this, I want to do that. But as soon as I read the script and spoke to Justin about him and about Owen Shaw and about his background, it all just started to fall into place about how he was. And I think he comes from a sort of semi-realistic place, but you know, he is slightly heightened. I mean, this guy is ruthless. I mean, no one is irreplaceable. You know, he's a one-man band almost. He doesn't need anybody else, even though he uses a team. And so that bit sort of is slightly heightened. But I wanted to make sure that he was relatable, and also for the twisted audience members that wanted to be a bad guy, they'd really maybe want to be him. You know, because he has so many like cool attributes. You know, he dresses really stylish, and he's got these amazing cars. He's got the tank. You know, he's got money. He's got brains. He has this amazing ability to fight. He has these different sort of martial art forms that he's learned from being in the military. So all of those things I sort of brought to the character, and then you know, the dialogue I had, I was incredibly happy with the second I read it, and I just thought, well, I'm gonna enjoy doing this role. You know.
Great, Perry.
So Justin, you've got this incredible, beloved franchise in the palm of your hands right now. Why step away now? And did you have any choice in choosing your successor?
You know, it was a very emotional choice for me. You know, and it's been 8 years since I've been a part of this franchise, and we really have become family behind cameras, and a lot of us have had kids, and they're all growing up together. But you know, for me, if you watch Fast and Furious 6, you do see that it's a culmination of something, and I think it's the end of a chapter, and it's something that I felt like, you know, in 2005 when I pitched it, some people might have thought I was crazy, but in my wildest dreams, I wanted to achieve that, and now that we have, I feel like it's time to walk away. I think very rarely do filmmakers get that choice. And I think it's better to walk away now at its height, and you know, and also to be able to hand it off to somebody, than to just kind of stick it through for no other reason. I feel like I've done everything that I wanted to do, and I understand. I mean, to walk away from everybody is a tough thing, but I think it's the right thing to do. You know, as a filmmaker, I've been developing a lot of other things in the last 8 years, and you know, it's time for me to keep growing and try new things, you know. So it's just time.
And how about the second part of her question? Will you have a hand in picking who directs 7? Or did you have a hand? I'm sorry if that's already been announced and I missed that.
It's been announced.
Oh.
It's been announced. It's James Wan. It's a great choice. To be honest with you, it was so emotional. I didn't want to be a part of that. I didn't want to be part of that process. But when the studio shared with me, I was very happy. I think he comes from indie roots, and he's a filmmaker that has a point of view, and I can't wait to see what he's going to be doing with this franchise.
Cool. Thank you guys for all the questions. I have to say selfishly, as someone who's about to do the junket tomorrow, that was super helpful to hear all of your amazing questions. So thank you so much, and Justin and Luke, thanks a lot too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye everybody.